India is fast becoming a key arena for global tech giants who are doubling down on artificial intelligence. Amazon has announced a sweeping $35 billion investment plan through 2030 aimed at accelerating AI-led digitization, strengthening logistics networks and boosting export capabilities. As per Keystone, Amazon has already poured in nearly $40 billion into the country over the past decade via AWS. The company now aims to generate an additional 1 million jobs, scale e-commerce exports to $80 billion and bring AI learning to 4 million government school students. Microsoft is keeping pace with its biggest ever commitment in Asia, an investment of $17.5 billion, taking its total India outlay to $20.5 billion. The company plans to set up Asia's largest hyperscale data center in Hyderabad by mid-2026 and has doubled its AI skilling goal to 20 million Indians by 2030. Together, Amazon and Microsoft are spearheading two of the largest AI-focused investments India has witnessed. On Tuesday, Intel and Cognizant chiefs met Prime Minister Modi. Both companies reaffirmed plans to scale up operations in India. Cognizant CEO Ravi Kumar emphasized talent development and growth, while Intel CEO reiterated the firm's commitment to strengthening India's semiconductor ecosystem. In November, Nvidia joined a $2 billion deep tech alliance to mentor emerging tech startups in India. Over the past few months, AI and tech majors such as OpenAI, Google, Perplexity have offered their tools for free to millions in India. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote, "When it comes to AI, the world is optimistic about India." End of quote. These developments come just ahead of the India AI Impact Summit in February, the first ever summit on artificial intelligence to be held in the Global South. So what's driving this AI rush in India? I'm now joined by a very special guest, Dean Ball, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for American Innovation. He has also served in the White House as a Senior Policy Advisor for AI and Emerging Technology. Thank you very much for joining us, Dean. So how do you see the momentum when it comes to future technologies, especially artificial intelligence? We've seen almost $50 billion of investment commitments being made by US software companies, tech giants. Does this somehow indicate that despite the trade friction, US companies are bullish on India's AI story?
I think it absolutely does. India is one of the largest growth markets for artificial intelligence services in the world. ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic's, Claude models. These are models that have seen enormous growth in the Indian consumer market. But in addition to that, these models are really platforms for a whole new wave of innovation. And India has such a robust base of entrepreneurs who can build entirely new things on these platforms, and so many businesses that can adopt these services, these AI services, to transform their businesses, increase productivity. So I think it's really nothing but opportunity. And I am very unsurprised that our companies are so bullish, because I am too.
Right. You recently met the Indian ambassador to the United States, Vinay Quatra, as well. Could you give us a sense of your recommendations to the Indian government on what India can do to be a rising power in the artificial intelligence revolution?
Yeah, I had a wonderful meeting with Ambassador Quatra just a few days ago, and I found him to be a deeply thoughtful and engaging person, and just so knowledgeable about the technology in a way that very many policymakers around the world and in the United States are not. So that was a wonderful exchange. You know, I think that the broad strokes of what we talked about was the adoption of AI, the diffusion, as it's sometimes called. There's this notion that, you know, the models, as they get bigger and better, are going to transform the world, and I believe that's true, but they're not going to transform the world simply by virtue of existing. They're going to transform the world when they're adopted by businesses and consumers to change the way that they do things. This is how we will get economic growth. It's how we'll get new types of ways of communicating, new types of education, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. So many different things. It's a general purpose technology wave that we're seeing here, but in order to seize it, we can't just build it, we also have to adopt it. And I think that India can be a world leader in adoption.
Right. I would also like to ask you that when it comes to investments, India is investing over $1 billion. In fact, for the India AI mission, more than $1 billion was allocated in the year 2024, and we're trying to follow a public-private model. Could you give us a sense that when it comes to having cutting-edge AI technology for the future, what has worked in the United States, what has worked in China, and what will work for India?
Well, we have such different models between the United States and China. The United States has a private sector led approach. So we embrace the ability of new technologies, new innovators to come onto the scene, introduce new technologies without having to go through waves of government approval, try out new ideas, be experimental. That approach has worked very well for the United States historically. China has, they're an innovative economy. I think we can't deny that that's true, but they have much more of a government led approach to the development of technology. I think that a country like India should really look to the sort of U.S. path of letting the private sector lead here. That's, I think, the strongest way to introduce new ideas into the world. And I think for a fellow democratic society, it's the way to go.
Right. Now, what do you think could drive more AI investments into the Indian ecosystem? What do you think is what US companies are looking for at this stage in terms of global partnerships? And what can India do which would accelerate the pace of investments?
So I think there are many things there, and a lot of them are actually similar to what we have to do in the United States. So one of the things that I worked on extensively when I was in the Trump administration was the permitting and the infrastructure development, making it easier to build new things. I think that anyone building large-scale energy and data center projects in India likely encounters regulatory delays and barriers as well, just like they do in the United States. So finding ways to harmonize those, to simplify those regulations, I think is really important. There's also, of course, making sure that you don't have regulations that hinder the adoption of technology. This is the mistake the Europeans have made. They've passed all these laws that not only regulate the development in really onerous ways of AI, but they also regulate the deployment of AI in things like financial services and healthcare and education and other areas where I think AI can be deeply transformative. So making sure that the regulatory climate is conducive to transformative adoption and development of AI, I think is step number one. But it is also true that some of these infrastructure projects are so large that they implicate the government, almost by definition. And it's also true that the government itself can benefit immensely from the adoption of AI and other advanced technologies. India is a world leader here. The digital public infrastructure that India has built is the envy of the world, and it's the envy of me personally as I sit in the United States with my plastic ID issued by a state government. So I think that India can transform its public services, and the government has shown an ability to do that frankly many Western governments have not. And so again, I think India can lead the world in the creation of a new kind of digital public infrastructure.
Right. Now, when it comes to a global compact on AI or a common regulatory framework, this is something that has been proposed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and this will possibly be discussed at the India AI Action Summit in February as well. What is the current view on in the White House when it comes to agreeing to any sort of global regulatory framework or contours within which we should work together?
Well, I can't speak to what the current thinking is inside the White House, but what I can say is that certainly when you look at the public statements that many of Trump administration officials have made, and also some of the things that we talked about in the AI Action Plan, which was released this past summer, we talked quite a bit about how global governance regimes can be quite problematic and can rob countries of sovereignty. For us, nation-state level sovereignty, this was also reiterated in the administration's national security strategy, which came out last week. This was, all about nation-state level sovereignty. So I think that the Trump administration is rather skeptical of global governance regimes. At the same time, I think it's very true, and the previous segment, very exciting news, was covering the very exciting news about the progress toward a U.S.-India trade deal. And I think that these kinds of deals that govern and set the contours for commercial relations between our two countries can be very important in enabling both of us to grow together.
All right. Yes, having a trade deal would be important and would give more confidence to the companies and the private sector in both nations to work together. Thanks very much, Dean Ball, for joining us on the program with a very insightful set of views on the US-India AI partnership. That's a wrap on another edition of Global Lens. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.